This is Keith Cooper after accepting a multi-million-dollar settlement for his wrongful conviction in a 1996 armed robbery and attempted in Elkhart. It's the largest wrongful conviction settlement in Indiana history, costing taxpayers $7.5 million. The cost for Cooper? More than 7 years in prison, away from his family, serving time for a crime he didn't commit. Now, Cooper's attorneys say he and others were targets of a rogue group of cops inside the Elkhart Police Department, dating back more than 30 years, known as the Wolverines. And Cooper's attorneys believe the actions of the Wolverines may soon make Elkhart, per capita, the exoneration capital of the U.S.
I was just told stories about it.
Issues as far as excessive force, brutality.
Everybody deserves justice.
They would lie, cheat, defraud.
And systemic misconduct existed.
Do we want to keep digging things up?
I always questioned everything.
I think I'm done.
All right, peace and blessings, ladies and gentlemen. What you are about to see is an expose about the Elkhart Police Department in Elkhart, Indiana. Now, someone just sent me a recent video of Elkhart Police continuing the terrorization of Black communities, which you're going to hear about in this expose. The person who sent it to me said Elkhart is the #1 in wrongful convictions and misconduct because of their track record. And you just saw the $7.5 million man who received that lawsuit for being wrongfully convicted. There are several cases right now ongoing about people getting their cases overturned, suing the police for misconduct, and several officers under investigation to this day. And so they had this gang called the Wolverines, which continuously terrorized the community, framed cases, made up witnesses, coerced witnesses. Even one of them went on to be a bank robber. And so you're going to hear about this, but I'm also going to show you that video of a recent police terrorization an entire community of Black people in this town of Elkhart, Indiana, which is about 50,000 people. And I'm showing this because we have seen a lot of police brutality here in my hometown of Goldsboro. But of course, I've been covering these stories for quite some time now. And so this is an actual admittance from an ex-police chief of this rogue group of officers whom they called themselves white supremacists, called the Wolverine Gang. And this is documented because of their action. So this is a whistleblower, and there have been many gangs found in many police departments all across the United States. And so when we talk about racism, police injustice, this is not a myth. This is something that is truly happening. And without further ado, I'm going to play this so you can actually get a firsthand experience of what the Wolverine Gang did in this particular city. And so you can imagine what goes on around the country.
Please raise your right hand.
This is former Elkhart Police Chief James J. Ivory testifying in a sworn deposition.
I do.
This testimony is the first known record of a former or current Elkhart City official admitting to the existence of an all-white group of rogue cops inside the Elkhart Police Department that targeted minority neighborhoods for years.
Did you come to learn of a group of officers in the Elkhart Police Department who call themselves the Wolverines?
Yes.
Members of the Wolverines have been implicated in violating the constitutional rights of citizens in the Elkhart community, and predominantly citizens of color.
Elliot Slosser is an attorney who has investigated wrongful conviction cases in Elkhart for nearly 15 years. He's part of the Notre Dame Exoneration Justice Clinic, which uncovered the existence of the Wolverines.
Should people question what law enforcement have done in Elkhart over the past 3 decades? Of course.
You can hear him in this deposition questioning the former police chief.
The Elkhart Police Department by 1990 had a reputation for brutality against people of color. Is that fair?
Yes.
This deposition is part of recent legal action to overturn conviction of Iris Seabolt, who was investigated by members of the Wolverines. Court filings in the Seabolt case describe the Wolverines as a white supremacist group targeting people of color in South Central Elkhart in the 90s.
Some of the members used the N-word when they didn't know I was around. Of course, as soon as they saw me when I walked around the corner, the conversation ceased.
Keith Cooper was put in jail by Steve Rizutko, identified by at least one former Elkhart police officer as a Wolverine, according to court records. Cooper was sentenced to 40 years in prison, convicted for a 1996 robbery where a teenager was shot. Cooper's attorneys accused Rizutko of manipulating witnesses with suggestive lineups, withholding evidence which could have kept Cooper out of prison, and deliberately creating false evidence and witness statements. Rizutko later resigned from the Elkhart Police Department following an internal investigation finding Rizutko had paid informants for sexual acts. He died shortly after learning about the Cooper case being reopened.
Nobody was like, hey, let's go look into those cases and see if the people who are still in prison every day should really have a shot at justice.
Keith Cooper spent more than 7 years in prison before new DNA evidence and eyewitness testimony from the victim saying he didn't commit the crime led to his release. Governor Eric Holcomb granted a pardon in 2017. Then, last month, the city of Elkhart paid an historic $7.5 million wrongful conviction settlement, the largest in Indiana history, according to the University of Michigan Law School Exoneration Register.
I gotta stop it right there. You see my man Keith Cooper stepping out there looking and smelling like new money. Now, I don't know if $7.5 million is worth 7 years of your life. Think about it. You just went on a merchant cement trip for 7 years and made $1 million a year. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. But many people would. And you see the officer who set him up took the cowardly way out after being found out to did what he did to him, but also he was around there tricking. He was around there tricking with informants, which a lot of police officers do as well. Let's continue.
The second suspect in the case, Chris Parrish, saw his attempted robbery conviction dismissed because of new DNA evidence and testimony, which led to a $4.9 million payout after a jury had found Rizutko deprived his constitutional right to a fair trial.
Now, he's not even in the documentary. He probably somewhere in Montego Bay right now. Far away from the Wolverines as he can get, because he probably know how dirty they are.
At least 9 former Elkhart police officers have been implicated as Wolverines in recent court filings.
The question shouldn't just be who was a part of it and what did they do. Another question should be who knew about it. Why didn't they stop it?
During his deposition, former Elkhart Police Chief J.J. Ivory identified 3 men he knew as Wolverines. Bruce Davidson, a Fraternal Order of Police president who went on to rob 24 banks through 11 states, landing him on the FBI's most wanted list. Steve Ambrose, an officer involved in the 1995 of Derek Connor, which led to citywide protests. And Ed Winbigler, who went on to become the Elkhart Chief of Police.
They would all stick together, and regardless on whatever the issue might be, made me feel they would lie, cheat, defraud, or whatever it took to uphold their cause.
When Ivory took over as chief in 1990, he had a mission to change the culture inside the Elkhart Police Department.
Issues as far as excessive force, brutality, because of the Wolverines and the various divisions within the department, it was necessary for me to know who I could trust, who I couldn't trust, and to make sure that they were in fact abiding by our rules.
People wrote in to the Elkhart Truth, accusing officers of taking prisoners to the city dumping ground for interrogation. Fed up with the way Elkhart police treated the South Side, a 1992 arrest at the Washington Gardens public housing.
Now, this looks like the same exact housing project that the gentleman sent the video of the incident that is recent. Now, I hope it uploads, but if not, just trust me, it's still going on today.
Complex ended with as many as 200 neighbors throwing rocks and bottles at officers.
It was a very volatile time, and emotions were running rather rapid and rather high.
Over the years, the Elkhart Police Department has kind of taken it on the chin a few times.
Chris Seymour took over as chief in 2020 under similar circumstances as Ivory, tasked with changing the culture of the Elkhart Police Department.
Now, I looked at it as an opportunity to steer the boat in not so calm waters.
Seymour became chief after EPD faced a 97-page report from the Police Executive Research Forum, commissioned as a response to this video. 2 Elkhart police officers beating a man handcuffed to a chair. The incident led to then Elkhart Police Chief Ed Windbigler to resign. Windbigler, one of the alleged members of the Wolverines, identified by J.J. Ivory.
Now, if he was the police chief, he was also a member of that organization. That means he sanctioned those types of actions. And once again, this goes on all over the country.
Group Seymour says he never encountered in more than 2 decades with the Elkhart Police Department.
Had you ever heard about it?
I'd heard stories.
What'd you hear?
Same thing you're saying. So, yeah, we'll stay away from that one.
Now, there he is. He's the chief now, but has been around 20 years talking about he's heard stories, but he doesn't want to talk about it because if you look in his face, it looks like that he is one of those guys too. I'm pretty sure that, he knows more than he's talking about. And that's, once again, part of the problem.
Protect and serve shouldn't be just a slogan. It should be something that they can feel.
Elkhart Mayor Rod Robertson admits changing the culture inside the department and building trust with the community is no small task.
When you did hear about an officer or any of the police department being heavy-handed in one way, shape, or form, it reverberated inside of the community.
The department followed suggestions from the PERF report to update its use of force. Every officer is now outfitted with body cameras and squad car cameras, and EPD has created an online reporting system for the public. The stats suggest there has been significant progress. According to the Elkhart Police Department, criminal arrests in 2021 jumped 46% from the year prior, while use of force dropped, and complaints on officers went down by nearly a third.
Now, if arrests jump from 46%, that means they're out arresting more people. That's not necessarily a good thing. And use of force is down 4.5%, but the complaints are down 30%. How much were they up? That is the question. If there were 3,000 complaints one year and now it's only 2,000, that's still too many. So those numbers, don't let those numbers fool you.
There's no finish line. It's an ongoing process for us. We're constantly evaluating and reevaluating everything that we do.
This new administration with the mayor and Chief Seymour is a bright light in an otherwise dark system of injustice. And I hope that the chief and the mayor continue taking efforts to fix things moving forward.
But Chief Seymour didn't appreciate the line of questioning regarding the Wolverines.
Do we want to keep, digging things up, or do we want to acknowledge that maybe mistakes were made or procedures were not in place to effectively do things? And now we have them in place and we're doing things what we think is right.
He made it clear.
Each about maybe mistakes were made. No, definitely mistakes were made. But watch how he just be like, I'm done because I don't want to talk about it, which further lets me know that he was probably a part of the problem as well.
Past misconduct isn't something he's focused on.
Yeah, I think I'm done.
Well, and just to clarify, I mean, you're saying it's past, but Cooper was in jail up until.
If you can't hear the man say, look, yeah, man, it's in the past, but people are still in jail because of those actions. So it's your responsibility to retroactively open those cases and make sure that nobody's still in jail because of these actions. And watch his response.
I don't want to live in the past. Okay? I can't answer for what people did 30 plus years ago.
Yes, you can.
So what is being done?
He said he don't want to answer for what people did 30 years ago, but it's your duty. You may have people, you see these cases keep getting overturned. So why don't you have to go back and look at every case and make sure these officers don't have another person in there for 40 years of false evidence and framing techniques. But as he said, what is being done about that possibility?
Today for people put in prison by members of the Wolverines. And if there was a pattern of misconduct, what is being done to investigate possible wrongful convictions for people still sitting in prison? Nothing.
Do you believe that the city should review any cases involving officers that were implicated in potential misconduct?
Not my job.
See, now I was feeling him a little bit, but when he said that, he might as well have grabbed his granddaddy overalls and start tap dancing. You may have hundreds, maybe thousands of people serving unjust and undue sentences, and you're going to say it's not your job as a leader. Yeah, I can't rock with you, my brother.
The city, county, and Elkhart Police Department all said they will not reopen cases or review past convictions that involved officers responsible for any of Elkhart's growing list of wrongful convictions. Elliot Slosser wants to see an independent prosecutor appointed to review potential cases of past misconduct, specifically involving members of the Wolverines.
We're not counting on a system that has protected itself for 30 years to somehow say, oh, we're going to do things the right way and look backwards.
Everybody deserves justice. That's what I would tell you.
Well, how are you going to say that when you're not ensuring that the people who may have been victims of your rogue gang are not necessarily getting justice?
And nobody deserves to have their character assassinated because they made mistakes or whatever. They answer for their individual stuff, and that's nobody else's to answer for.
And that's the problem. He said nobody deserves to have their character assassinated for mistakes they've made. And you're right. They pay for their mistakes, but you also have people still suffering, maybe still suffering for their mistakes. So you have an obligation, you have a duty, you have a moral responsibility to make those mistakes right, especially when people are spending time in jail unjustly.
I don't have a time machine. I can't go back and fix all this.
But you can fix it now.
My job is to move forward. My job is to make sure that the administration that I have and the police chief that I have is applying the law appropriately. We will be there to assist whatever we are asked to assist in. But it's not our job and nor my administration to investigate past administrations or past police chiefs or any of those things. It's not my job.
There are 2 pending federal civil rights lawsuits from overturned convictions that could lead to more settlements. And there are 3 pending post-conviction cases that could lead to more exonerations. While the city and county both said they won't proactively review cases involving officers with a history of misconduct on the job, both said they would comply with any legal action that comes their way. In all, Elliot Slosser tells Night Team there may be as many as a dozen cases filed to overturn potential wrongful.
So there you have it. There are still ongoing cases that are being overturned and investigated because of this group of rogue officers. Now, that particular expose was from 2022, and I'm still looking up cases right now that are pending. Nevertheless, this video, it hasn't downloaded yet. I'm just going to have to try to show it to you on my phone and see if this will work. So that's that you see. Now that is in Elkhart. Now, if you saw that housing project that they were showing, that is the exact same project. And you hear police officers telling the people who live there to get out of here, cussing them out. Do you see any change in what the past has told, from just watching that expose and then watching that video? There's not much difference. And so just imagine what goes on in little towns like Elkhart, Indiana, Goldsboro, North Carolina, and the like. All the little towns where you got rogue police, aggressive police targeting people that look like me and getting away with it for years. And then you have people who come in, know that has happened, have proof, but yet and still, they won't make sure that the people who are responsible for this or victims of this get the necessary justice that they need. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. You see the number 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings.